Chào mừng quý vị đến với diễn đàn CEO. Thưa quý vị, trong bối cảnh kinh tế có nhiều khó khăn do tác động bởi khủng hoảng, thì một câu hỏi lớn đặt ra đối với các doanh nhân trong việc lãnh đạo doanh nghiệp là làm thế nào để tìm được cơ hội phát triển ngay trong khủng hoảng và có thể tồn tại. Và hôm nay chúng tôi xin được cùng quý vị gửi câu hỏi này tới vị khách mời đến với chương trình, giáo sư tiến sĩ Dominic Mwenja, hiệu trưởng trường đại học California Miramar. Thank you, Professor, for coming.
Thank you very much for your time.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. And we are excited about where Vietnam is today and the potential that the country has moving forward. But then when you come to Asia, China is still there, still growing, and Vietnam is in the mix.
And what do you think about that solution?
It's always good news when the government is ready and willing to intervene and help whatever it can. But that in and of itself is not allowed. It's not enough.
You know, not only American investors, international investors told me that they sometimes they're disappointed about the environment in Vietnam, about the legislating process, and about the license and about the policy in circulars. And do you think the policies of Vietnam is one of the main reasons? What do you think about the policies?
Well, at the macro level, there's a lot that can be done to improve the business environment. So the most important thing is self-reflection. Look in the mirror. Don't look through the mirror.
You know, now we have to face to the difficulties in finance crisis throughout all over the world, and when fighting it, what do you think about the difficulties that everybody have to face?
It's been a tough 3 years globally. What's happening in the U.S., in Europe, in Asia, and to some extent in Africa. So the Asian economies have really they've not been so badly affected by this like the Europeans have, like the Americans have over the last 3 years. And so Asia has really been the only continent that has been seeing steady growth over the last few years, while the rest of the countries' economies have been shrinking. It's been tough for Europe. Of course, we know the crisis in Europe, and we're going to see a lot of changes in a lot of governments in Europe because of what's happening. In the U.S., we've had our own economic issues the last 3 years, but things are starting to look okay. Unemployment has come down a little bit in the U.S. But then when you come to Asia, China is still there, still growing. Although not as fast as it was the last few years. And Vietnam is in the mix of all those. With the GDP growth probably this year, maybe 5.7, 5.8%, a little bit slower than it was last year. But overall, I think as far as businesses are concerned, there's hope. There's always hope out there. And there's always the chance of coming out stronger after you've gone through a rough time.
You just say about China now growing and Vietnam is the mix. So what do you think about the landscape of the economy in Vietnam?
It's been tough, and it's a lot of small and medium-sized companies right now in Vietnam are having a hard time.
Yes.
Mostly because of it's a global phenomenon. It didn't start here. It started in other countries and spread in so many countries. But in Vietnam especially, the biggest problem I think that small businesses are facing is the cost of capital is high. Interest rates they're high. So when you combine that with the slowdown in consumer spending, you're bound to have problems. You're bound to have the same issues that we've had in the U.S. But I think with targeted government interventions, we have seen that in the U.S. It's mostly going to help a little bit. A few companies will go out of business. They always do. But it is also a time where management has to start looking at ways of surviving through these rough times and coming out stronger. So I think it's both a challenge but also an opportunity, because organizations are able to learn from the challenges that they're facing, and sometimes convert those challenges into actual opportunities so that they can come out stronger. So as bad as it looks, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel, and most likely some of the companies that are going to survive, they'll come out stronger.
Last year in Vietnam, we have a big number, about 50,000 enterprises, small and medium-sized enterprises has closed bankrupt. And now the number is increasing. And the government gave a decision that to support about 29 billion Vietnamese dollars to support for the enterprises. And what do you think about that solution?
It's always good news when the government is ready and willing to intervene and help whatever it can. But that in and of itself is not alone. It's not enough. Whether we get some infusion from the government, there are fundamental issues in the management and leadership of organizations that will need to be addressed as we move forward. And some of the major difficulties that we have seen in a lot of companies is the misalignment of the current level of turbulence in the business environment with the level of strategic aggressiveness that we've seen in the companies, and also the level of management and leadership capabilities. You have to balance those three. If you don't, most likely you're going to be in a turbulence level that is at a lower level, yet your strategies are very aggressive. At the same time, you may not have the right capability in your management and organization in order to execute those strategies. When you have such kind of disconnect, most likely organizations are going to fail. So with the injection of some capital coming from the government, with the macroeconomic environment now being looked at in terms of making it possible for businesses to succeed, we also have to look at the internal environment within the company in order to make sure that those incentives coming from the government are really not wasted. And then 3 or 4 years down the road, the same organizations that are being helped will start to fail again. So those are the fundamental issues that I think need to be looked at in terms of developing the capabilities within the organizations in order for them to take advantage of whatever incentives are going to come and realign themselves and balance between the three inputs.
And do you think it's the same problem in US?
Oh yeah, those are problems everywhere. They are global problems.
Big gap.
The gaps are there. Even in America, American students, we teach them to do the same thing.
Oh, really?
They go to their companies. They look at the turbulence within which the environment within which the company operates. They look at how aggressive they are with their strategies. They look at the capabilities. And once they analyze all this, they are able to identify those gaps. So those gaps are there. Even in American corporations, they might not be as wide, but they are still there. But in American corporations, some of the things that we have seen is the gap between the turbulence level and the aggressiveness of the strategies. The management capability might be there, but we always say what got you here will not get you there. That means they are successful up to where they are today. But in order for them to become better in the next few years, become a much larger company, more sales, then they have to go back to school, get new skills, either in the graduate programs or short course programs and all those. So this is a global phenomenon. We're doing the same thing in Africa. So it is everywhere, but it's more pronounced in some countries than in other countries.
How about a solution in a developed market like US? And can we apply that solutions in an emerging market like Vietnam?
Yes and no, because there is no one solution that fits all situations. The environments are different. What we are able to do in the US in terms of finding solutions, those same solutions might not work in Vietnam. They might not work in Kenya. They might not work in Brazil. But the context within which you apply those solutions will lead you to making optimal decisions. So, and I always say, like in America, we have the inner cities and we have the suburbs. The inner cities are the poor part of the cities, and the suburbs is where the wealthy people live. And I always say that you cannot have an inner city, a suburban solution to an inner city problem. Because even if they're the same city,
yes,
they're still two different environments. So the same thing happened to business solutions. But the framework of decision making should be the same. Then we adapt to the conditions in those countries.
Yes.
And that's what we teach our students to be able to do. Make decisions based on the knowledge that you have, but those decisions are local. So you have a global mindset and a local thought process. And that is how we approach that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nếu nhìn nhận khủng hoảng như một cơn bão, thì ngay trong cơn bão này, điểm an toàn nhất chính là tâm bão. Và nếu mỗi doanh nghiệp tìm thấy tâm bão để trú ẩn an toàn, tỉnh táo quan sát tình hình để thích ứng kịp thời thì họ tồn tại. Và thậm chí là có thể nhìn thấy rõ những cơ hội mới trong khủng hoảng. Đó là mặt phải của cuộc khủng hoảng dưới góc nhìn của nhiều doanh nghiệp. Trên thực tế, bên cạnh những doanh nghiệp không đủ thực lực để ra đi, thì cũng có không ít những doanh nghiệp đã đổi mới và tìm kiếm cơ hội kinh doanh vào giai đoạn này. Đối với một số doanh nghiệp, khủng hoảng là cơ hội vàng để mua lại tài sản với giá rẻ. Và các doanh nhân vẫn có đủ tiềm lực tài chính đã không bỏ qua cơ hội này. Đó là nguyên nhân đằng sau một loạt thương vụ mua bán và sáp nhập doanh nghiệp đình đám trong suốt năm 2011 cho đến những tháng đầu năm nay. Trong đó có thể sẽ có cả những thương vụ mà doanh nghiệp Việt Nam sẽ mua lại thương hiệu của nước ngoài. Thất bại của người này đôi khi chính là cơ hội cho người khác. Đó chính là nhận định của nhiều nhà kinh doanh trong thời điểm này. Và cũng không quá bất ngờ khi trong giai đoạn này, nhiều doanh nghiệp khi có đủ thực lực vẫn mạnh dạn tung ra thị trường những gói sản phẩm mới, dịch vụ mới, đánh trúng vào phân khúc khách hàng mục tiêu. Bởi theo lý lẽ của họ, lúc các đối thủ gặp khó khăn, thị trường trầm lắng, thì cũng là cơ hội để doanh nghiệp tạo nên những bước đột phá và vươn lên. Mặt khác, khủng hoảng còn được nhìn nhận như một thời điểm thích hợp để doanh nghiệp tự nhìn nhận lại mình. Việc tĩnh tâm chăm lo cho sức khỏe doanh nghiệp được cho là hết sức cần thiết, khi mà trước đó, trong những giai đoạn phát triển bình thường, thị trường suôn sẻ, nhiều doanh nghiệp mải mê chạy theo doanh số, lợi nhuận mà quên mất việc xây dựng nền tảng sức khỏe. Hệ thống quản lý rời rạc, thiếu tính hệ thống, nguồn nhân lực yếu kém, chiến lược xây dựng kinh doanh được xây dựng tự phát theo cảm tính. Những sự cố mà doanh nghiệp từ nhỏ đến lớn gặp phải trong thời gian qua cũng là hệ quả của vấn đề này. Vì thế, khủng hoảng là cơ hội để doanh nghiệp tư duy và đánh giá lại chính mình. Từ đó, có kế hoạch nâng cấp sức khỏe để đối phó với khủng hoảng trước mắt, cũng như tạo nền tảng sức khỏe lâu dài về sau.
What do you think about how to improve the competitiveness in Vietnam to attract the international investors?
In terms of the macroeconomic environment, or in terms of organizational competitiveness? Now, on the macro level, I think one is the licensing process. if it's faster. And then the other part is if the provinces, like in the United States, for example,
Yes.
The states